I'd like to introduce you in a moment to my little niece. We're going to be talking about authentic language, authentic situations, authentic speaking in the classroom. This is my little niece. She's as, would you like me to, can we put the lights off at the front?
Can we switch off the lights?
Could we have, maybe if someone could... Can you see her little white socks?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can see the little white socks. This is my little niece, and she's as huggable and as adorable as she looks. And in a moment, when we put the lights on, you'll be able to see how much better.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. She's called Amelia, and she's 7. And this is her school uniform. And this was her first day back at school in September. And I was chatting to Amelia on FaceTime, maybe it was on WhatsApp, maybe it was on FaceTime last week. And I was chatting to her. I see her for real about 3 times a year, but I see her lots of times on my phone. Okay, there you can see her. And she was telling me about her homework, because I was asking if she was studying hard at school. And she's, sorry, we got the lights. Oops. Evgeny's doing his best, okay? That's fine. Okay, don't go to sleep. No. Stop. Great. Thank you. She was telling me about her homework. She'd been given some English homework, and she likes English because she likes reading. She reads well. In fact, she usually reads the bedtime story to her mum. Not the other way around. She reads lots and lots of books. And this was her homework. Could you do this? She's 7. And I said, what's this about? She said, don't you know? I said, no. But you teach English. I said, well, I don't know what this is. She said, it's easy. They were given some help, some examples. So a fronted adverbial.
That's fine.
Sorry, there is a reason for that.
All right. Trust you. Fronted adverbial is where you put the adverb, the describing information, at the front of the sentence. So she had some examples here. And with those words, she was able to write 3 sentences with a fronted adverbial. But
Rachel, I'm very sorry. Can you stay here because online we can't see you?
Good. Thank you. Do we really need this terminology to talk about language? I personally think it's unnecessary. We need to talk about language if we want to talk about language which is going to get something done, which is going to be communicative. That's what language is about. It's not about talking about language for the sake of it, which I think this is. She was okay with this, surprisingly. So I let it go. But she's I think, a bit of an exception. And I don't think this is helpful, really, to be talking about language which teachers with some experience don't understand either. And imagine if this is just her homework on a Monday evening, imagine what her exams are. And I wonder what her teachers think about the exams. Maybe the teachers write them. I don't know what you think of when you think of exams. What kind of words or thoughts or feelings go through your mind? I don't know about you, but I can already feel in my stomach when I think of exams. Okay? Okay, what I want you to do at this point, we're going to go to the menti.com slide. Okay? And I want you to go to your phone, and I want you to, on menti.com, I want you to type in the code, which is going to magically appear on the screen.
We have no money today, so I started it, but it doesn't work on screen.
We can't do this. We have an internet crisis. But we have loads of people here. So, what are the words which come to mind when you think of exams?
Stress.
Shock.
Stress, shock, what else?
Fear.
Experience, excitement. Fail. More stress.
It's excitement.
Complicated.
Excitement, what else? Embarrassed, awkward. Okay, all these things. Faint.
Lack of sleep.
No sleep. Okay, coffee. Okay, all these kinds of things. So these are all these horrific thoughts that stress us out when we have to deal with exams. Is it really necessary? No. We need to find a solution. We need to get rid of this. Let me show you. Okay, so we've got a media here. We're not doing this because we have an internet crisis. But let me show you, I asked some teachers and students what they thought about exams. So I asked some students what they thought.
Tears even. Tears.
And I also asked some teachers what they thought about exams.
Can you turn the previous slide, please? For a second, just. Thank you.
So exams are scary. So what are we going to do? Today we're going to find a solution. I'm sure this is familiar. But we have to teach our students and we have to help them to pass exams. But shouldn't those things be in sync? Shouldn't we be having lessons which are going to prepare students for the exams? We don't want the regular English lessons and then, oh, we're going to have an exam lesson now to prepare you for the exam. It's not how it should work. These need to be in sync. And this is what I think is important. And this is called washback, the effect that exams have on the classroom. And it shouldn't be stress, coffee, all these things. And you may be familiar with students saying, can we do a practice test? They want to know what the exam looks like. That's okay, of course we want to know what the exam looks like. But we need to make sure the students learn. And just by doing another test, they're not going to learn. They're going to become glued to the exam paper. Okay? They're not going to realise what they're really supposed to be doing. With negative washbacks, we have negative and positive. Teachers only teach what's on the test. And the students only really learn if there's a test coming up. They cram the night before. And they only really know what the test paper looks like. They don't really know what they need to be able to do. In positive washback, we're talking about learning goals and what we're going to achieve. It's much easier to plan the course. And if the activities in the classroom support real-life learning, then they're going to support test success. Good tests will promote good washback in the classroom. I'd like to show you some examples of speaking tests which do just this. Okay? I might need some ideas from you here. So just before ideas. So a good test focuses on a single skill. If you have a writing paper, a writing task, you might want students to write a letter. Okay? You might give them some ideas to help them because students are scared. Oh, I won't know what to say. I won't know what to write. I won't have any ideas. So if we give them a few ideas, they can write the letter. But if they have a complicated text to read first, in order to write the letter, it becomes a reading test. That's not helpful. Okay? If it's a writing test, it needs to focus on writing, not testing students' reading. So make sure your tests are single skill tests. And if the tasks are if the approach is task-based, if we're getting students to do things, then this is part of helping evaluate their performance. And this leads to good classroom practice. So we're going to have a look at the speaking paper, and we're going to have a look at something called the transactional dialogues. Transactional means there are two of us, okay? So I'm speaking to somebody else, like a mini conversation. And we're going to have a look at these, and I want to know what you would do in these situations. Here's the first one. Is this familiar? Okay, just to the person next to you, what would you say to the waiter in this situation? For example, there are lots of answers. Half a minute, what would you say? Tell the person next to you. Give me some ideas. What do you say to the waiter? Sorry? I won't pay for that. This is very direct. Are you very direct in Russian? I won't. Give me something else. What else could you say? Could you call the manager? This is also very direct. Could you please call the manager? Is it supposed to taste this way? Anything else?
Give me a refund, please.
Give me a refund, please. Okay, these are quite direct. But could you give the menu? Could you bring me the menu and I'll choose something else? Okay, all these are possible. But this is an example of the kind of situation that the students get on a card. Okay? Each student, because they do the exam in pairs, each student gets 3 cards. Okay? And there are different situations, and they have to say something appropriate in the situation. You can see that there are 101 different options. Okay? There's no one right answer. Now these are very short phrases. Could you bring me the menu, please? Please, can I have the menu? Or even, the menu, please. Okay? If the students say only that, you know they've understood the situation. Yeah? And these are everyday situations. This is what we need language for in a foreign country. I don't have this in Russian yet. So I hope this evening I don't go to a restaurant where the food is bad, because I won't know what to say. But you're very experienced English teachers, and you're teaching your students English to be able to do these little kinds of transactions. Let me give you another example. What could you say to your friend?
You like to cook?
Do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like it?
How is it going?
What level is this? Do you like it?
A1.
A1, A2, okay. But this is a response, a perfectly adequate response. After the student has made a comment, has responded, the examiner says something. So if we've got, do you like it? The examiner might say, I love it. Come and visit, for example. And the student needs to respond again with something even simpler and shorter, like, okay, I'd love to. Great. These very little changes, exchanges, gets the job done, okay? And here's a third one. And in the exam you have, for example, 2 students, and they take it in turns to read each of these situations and say their little bit. Okay. So, in this example, what is the language? What are we testing? Function.
Understanding of the
Yes,
situation.
understanding the situation, saying something appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what we're testing. So what do we need to do in the classroom?
Like role play.
Role play, yes, role play. Okay. So maybe you could play a little dialogue, ask the students to guess, who are the speakers? Waiter, customer? Shop assistant, customer? Yeah, could be all sorts of things. and lots of ideas there. I will give you a link at the end for a handout where you can download a handout and these slides. Okay? Wait for the end. But these kinds of role plays are in the course books you use. Familiar with these course books? Yeah. Okay, great. Here's an example. This is pre-intermediate, and surprise, surprise, we're in a restaurant. Okay? And this is a kind of example. She says, this isn't what I ordered. Okay? So the situation would be the waiter brings you the wrong food. Okay? I didn't order this. Okay, she got chips. She wanted salad. And in many books, you've got these lovely lists of phrases here and role play examples. So these are all in the course books. It's ready made for you. You have plenty of opportunities. You don't need to invent these. Okay, very quickly. Could you make me three-line dialogues? There are 2 3-line dialogues. I'd like you to put the letters in order, with the person next to you. Ready? Okay, who can give me 6 letters in the right order? Okay, B-A-E, I heard that, great, and D-F-C. Bingo, well done. These kinds of activities are really simple, okay? You can get your students to write them. Give them a picture of 2 people sitting in a restaurant with food. Think of a dialogue, a 3-line dialogue. Yeah. So even your students can do this and they can test each other. Okay. We're going to move on to something different. That was the transactional dialogues. And this was where I was saying there are very little phrases only that we want our students to know. Little things to get something done. In contrast, I'm going to show you something different now, where we're looking for a longer speech, more ideas. We give them some ideas, but we want the students to put the ideas together. And I've got a story for you. My story is in a bag. It's always more fun having a story in a bag. Oh, actually it's not a full story. Sorry, it's only words. You're going to have to make the story. So, we've got 6 words here. Ready? This is, now I remember. This is a story about when I first went to Eastern Europe. Okay, it was about 25 years ago. Okay, so, taste. 6 words. Fist. I'm going to show you these words on the board in a minute. Fist. You know what a fist is? Yes. Good. We've got a high-level audience here. Jam jar. It's a jar, a glass jar, you put jam or something in. Yeah? Jam jar. Okay. Ladle. A ladle is a kind of spoon, a large spoon, which has sort of a bowl underneath and you use it for soup. Yeah? One of those is a ladle. Okay? The next one is a bucket of cream and market stall. Okay? You have 1 minute with the person next to you to make a story out of those 6 words. Okay, have you got an idea for a story? You could make a story, couldn't you, with those 6 words? And again, I have to stop you. I have to stop you. You're like Amelia, she never wants to stop bedtime stories. She goes on and on and on because she doesn't want to go to sleep. Okay, I know that you can make a story out of those 6 words. And there are many different options possible. Okay, thank you. I could put the words as pictures. So you can just make out here those same 6 words as pictures. So I could make them pictures and ask students to put them into a story. Depends what your artistic talents are like. Mine are not great, but they do the job. Okay? Shall I tell you the story? Yeah. Hope you're not too hungry. So this was a letter, this is me somewhere in Eastern Europe, and I forget where I was, but it was very chilly. And this was a letter I wrote about this story. You may be able to read this little bit here. Can you read this at the back? Okay. So this was the story at the market, the Smetana tasting market. And your fist was for the cream. And then you went on to the honey store. But the problem was, so you take your jam jar and you put the cream in a jam jar, but we didn't have any jam jars, so we couldn't buy any cream. Because you can't take cream home on your fist. So this was the story. Anyway, on to real stories. This is the kind of thing that students enjoy. They can make their own 6 words, or they can draw their own pictures. And these are the ideas. And if you've got 6 ideas, you can make a story. Then you can focus on the language. You don't need to focus on what shall I say. And this is like the picture story task that I'm going to tell you about in the Euro exam. And the students get a picture story. They get 12 pictures. You can only see 6 here, but you get the idea. And the students have 10 minutes before the exam to prepare their story. And they can make notes. And then they tell their story. Okay, so there's no problem about, I don't know what to say in the exam. They've got the story there to go with it. So in a picture story, what are we testing? Maybe vocabulary, what else? Speaking, yeah? What else? Different tenses. What tenses do we use in telling a story? Past tenses, narrative tenses. Great, okay. So we're testing these kinds of things. Linking words, descriptive language. Fronted adverbial. So language of description, describing a story. Okay? Now how can we do that in the classroom? You do storytelling in the classroom, I'm sure. Maybe story in a bag, 5 or 6 words. Or you can give them jumbled stories. There are lots of ideas here. And again, these are on the handout and also available. You can download the slides. Moving very swiftly on. I've been to Moscow once before. Okay? What do you think I saw on my first visit to Moscow?
A lot of people.
Loads of people. Red Square. And in Red Square? Yep, and St. Basil's Cathedral. I've got 2 days in Moscow. I wonder whether you could give suggestions as to what else. I might see. I've seen Basil.
The Большой Theatre.
Nice. Nice. Anything else?
Ismail Opera Room. Near here.
Near here. That's easy. Okay, this is the kind of task that actually is the 4th task in a Euro exam. And you give students a situation. This isn't one of them, I made this up for today. But you give them something similar and you ask them to discuss the topic. And this is what the interlocutor will ask them to do. Okay, so it's a discussion task and you've got 2 students so that you can do that. And we're looking for them to be able to have a discussion, take turns, agree, disagree, make suggestions, give alternatives, and if they don't know a word, to be able to talk around it. And I'm sure you have lots of examples of activities that you do with your students to help them. You'll also find on the internet, on the Your Exam website, you'll find, again I'll give you a link for this, you'll find lots of ideas for practicing speaking exams. And here's a link, just a quick reminder that these speaking exams support real, authentic task types. So the work that you're going to do in the classroom, regular class teaching, is going to help you in your students passing these exams. This little link here will give you a link to a page where I keep a library of stuff. I keep conference talks, and this is what it looks like at the moment. If you go to conference talks on the left, and the handout PowerPoint slides I will upload later today. We have a stand outside with lots of materials. Please go and say hello, have a look. It's really nice to be here today. Thank you very much for joining in.